Hey everybody, we are live, and for some reason didn't play the open. That's all right. Matt and I don't care. Matt is mobile today, so he's going to give us traffic reports and also talk about sports. Matt, uh, it looks like the Bills have got their young man, and they didn't have to leave the building.
Yeah, yeah. Joe Brady ended up being who they went with for their hire. I like it. I know he was getting interest from across the league in terms of their head coaching positions. Um, it is interesting because what this move does is it places all of the blame solely on Sean McDermott. Like that is who their scapegoat has been in terms of the Bills' success or lack thereof in the playoffs over these past few years. They've placed it solely on Sean McDermott. Now they've got the offensive guy and Joe Brady at head coach, and that makes their defensive coordinator hire all the more crucial.
Yeah, it also puts it puts the responsibility for being winning, on the quarterback. I mean, because
Yeah.
he's his man. This is his guy.
Yeah. What it does is like it almost feels like everybody they found a way to absolve everybody from blame. Josh Allen, Brandon Beane, Joe Brady, all of them. They all were absolved of blame, and it seemed to fall solely on the shoulders of Sean McDermott.
Right.
Now, now it's time to show proof that that theory is correct because they'll have a lot of the same personnel in there, roster-wise, front office-wise,
Mm-hmm.
even in reference to some of the coaching staff. It'll be similar personnel that'll be in Buffalo, and the one determining factor will be who the head man is.
Right.
So if they're successful, then that's going to look all the worse on Sean McDermott in terms of his prospects of potentially becoming a head coach again in the NFL, which I'm not sure will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and proves out the Bills' ownership that they were correct in their theory. Now there's also the other way where if they continue to get worse and fail to succeed, that these are wasted years here by the Buffalo Bills because their theory was incorrect.
Well, that's the key. We always see coaches get fired, and it's a situation where you're hoping that that you get it right. That you fire somebody and you say to yourself, "Okay, I fired them. Are we going to get better?" I mean, it's the same thing that we saw when Baltimore got rid of Harbaugh. Is okay, you got rid of a guy who wins and gets you to the playoffs consistently, and so you're blaming him for your inability to get to the playoffs. Fine, whoever comes in next better damn well make it work, because otherwise, the onus is on the team.
Yeah, and it's an interesting. I think the Bills are an interesting case to watch in the not only next season but the coming 2 or 3 years because this isn't something that happens. Like it doesn't really happen ever at any level of football where you're unsuccessful, you fire the head coach and hire from within. It's just not something that you see very often, but it's something that they're trying, and I like Joe Brady a lot. I think there's a really good reason why he was on some head coaching boards. So it'll be interesting to see if this move pays off for him.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember after they won the Super Bowl, Bruce Arians in Tampa Bay. He wasn't fired, but there was clearly enough of a push that he accepted a different role with the team, and they moved Todd Bowles up. So there are times when the guy's not fired, but let's just say it's suggested that you take a different position with the team, or basically you get rid of him, and
Yeah.
we'll see how that works out. Brian Daboll is now settling in as the leader in the clubhouse for the Raiders job. He's interviewed 3 times now in 4 days. You don't interview somebody that often and not hire them.
Yeah, and I think Dable's an interesting case as well because
Mhm.
he feels like a coach that's going to be in the potentially in the Mike Vrabel kind of category in terms of who he is as a head coach. You know, Mike Vrabel had all that success in Tennessee. Then you look at the way things ended in Tennessee, and I think he was somewhere along the lines of 6-18 over his
Yeah,
last 24 games as the Titans head coach. You know, it's the stretch that would get you fired, but he found a good place in New England, and obviously they were able to turn it around in 1 year. I'm not expecting to be able to get in there and turn things around in Vegas in year one, but I think he is that kind of head coach where he had that success early during his time in New York, and they never were able to replicate it because, to be honest with you, I don't think they ever really had the roster like they did during his first couple of years in New York. So
no,
he's somebody that, and they have the number one overall pick, and that matters because they'll get quarterback figured out. Geno Smith will turn into a trade piece,
mhm.
however unvaluable he may be. But you know they have an opportunity because they have the free agent money available. They obviously have the number one pick, and they have some strong young talent on the offensive side of the football in Brock Bowers and Ashton Jeanty.
Right. This afternoon, I watched the press conferences of a couple of guys who, became, in the case of Pittsburgh, it was Mike McCarthy as the head coach. A little bit on that one. Mike, was introduced to the Pittsburgh press, all of whom knew him because, he's a Pittsburgh guy, number one. He talked about working at a bar during his time in college. And also, right after college, he was uh, a the guy at the turnpike who gave you gave you your ticket so that you can get on the turnpike and or gave you change from from the money when you got off. And so he talked about his roots in Pittsburgh, but he also talked about, and this is where I thought was very important. He said, "Look, we don't have the quarterback ready yet because we got quarterbacks, but we don't have one that I feel is the quote unquote franchise quarterback." He says it's my job to do two things: one, to find that guy, and two, to make sure that we have the assistants both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball to make sure that we're successful. And he said, I don't have all the answers, but I know where to get them. And I thought that was a pretty honest assessment.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting assessment. It would make me wonder what, like, he said, based on what you said, it would seem that he insinuated that Will Howard is not in their plan for this year in terms of who's going to be the starting quarterback. So you would assume that means they're making a trade, signing somebody in free agency, or going up in the draft and picking somebody they believe to be the next guy.
Actually, in fairness, I should have finished that. He was asked about Will Howard, and he goes, "Well, Will Howard hasn't taken a snap." He said he might, for all I know, he might be the quarterback. But he said, I'm telling you right now, as I stand here, I can't tell you who's going to be the quarterback.
Okay, yeah. See that makes sense. They definitely have not given up on Will Howard either.
No.
And you would guess that was probably going to be something that was important for the Roonies when they were hired. Usually they have a little bit of different power. He's a Pennsylvania guy. They went and hired, Mike McCarthy, who's also from Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh guy. So there seems to be a certain path direction that they have for football.
You're cutting in and out a little bit there. Hopefully the cell towers in Georgia are will get better as we go along here. Yeah, Mike was basically, he didn't do coach speak. He's not that kind of guy, but he was very open. He said, "Look, there's stuff we got to fix." But he said, everything with him He said everything with me starts with you got to start with a good offensive line, because if you don't have a good offensive line, it doesn't matter how good the quarterback is. So he's working his way through the system. He's been a winner. He's been in the league for 13 years as a head coach and an OC. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, and look, given Mike McCarthy's past and everything that he's done, it feels like your floor is kind of where you were at with Mike Tomlin, which I know everybody wasn't pleased with, but that's a really good floor that you're starting at.
I spoke to some guys in Pittsburgh, and what they told me was McCarthy, his shtick to, how did he get the job, right? And we went in and he told them, look, here's my plan. I got a 5-year deal. I'm going to get my offensive and defensive team, coordinators, everybody in here. I'm going to go. We're going to find a quarterback, and at the end of 5 years, we'll decide. I'll decide whether it's obviously it's a mutual thing between the team and the coach, whether we move on, or he says hopefully the person that the guys I bring in, one of these guys could eventually succeed me as head coach. So his whole thing is he knows he's not going to be 18 years as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, but he also knows that it's an opportunity for him to take a team which he grew up rooting for, and in his hometown city, and put him back on the right track.
Yeah, he's looking to correct the course for this team because I mean he's 62 years old. He's not going to coach forever. I think everybody knew that coming in. So he has the ability, and I feel like he is a guy who can build them into a winner or a bit higher level of a winner,
right?
And leave the program in a good state 5 years from now.
Yeah, and he's certainly the most experienced coach that's in that division.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely, because there's still going to be a lot of questions to be asked of Zach Taylor and the Bengals going into next year, even though he is the one holdover from last season in terms of the AFC North head coaches.
Yep. Let's go to the college side for a second. Duke and quarterback Darian Mensah reached a settlement resolving a legal fight, which clears his way to transfer. Where's he going?
Miami. That's a clear-cut destination. Everybody knew where he was going when he entered the portal, because that was Miami's big thing. That's been their big thing the last couple of years. Is they haven't recruited quarterbacks out of high school. They recruited quarterbacks out of college. Cam Ward came, he played for a year. Carson Beck came, he played for a year. Darian Mensah is going to be in the same boat. I think if everything goes the way that Miami and Darian Mensah hope that it will, the reported package for Mensah to go to Miami is nothing short of insane. Talking about a really nice condo. Supposedly it's on a country club. I don't know about that. A supposed deal with Adidas. $6.5 million, I believe, a scholarship for his sister. They rolled out the red carpet to get Darian Mensah to come play quarterback, and they kind of had to because it was a desperation move after they'd missed on a lot of their other top targets in the transfer portal at quarterback.
You could do a whole lot worse than Darian Mensah.
Yeah, you absolutely could. He's the quarterback that won the ACC championship this past year. That's what people seem to forget.
At Duke.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not talking about he won it at Clemson or he won at Florida State or he won it, at Miami. He won it at Duke.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, there's a lot to be made about the way that Duke made it to the ACC title, this, that, and the other. But the matter of the fact is that they did make that game, and then they won that game when they did make it. So you can politic about whether or not they should have been there. I think everybody with a functioning brain knows that Duke probably shouldn't have been in that spot, but they were, and they they took advantage of it. And Darian Mensah's a really good quarterback, and obviously he's going to look a lot better with better pieces around him as well.
Well, we know that, the whole deal with Miami is that their offensive and defensive lines.
Yeah,
That's
and
got
that's
to make them feel better.
Yeah, and they built those. They've built both of those things through through high school recruiting. Like they've built it through high school recruiting, and they've supplemented with the transfer portal on both lines of scrimmage. That's been their model since Cristobal got there, and it's a model that's paying off for them now. I mean, to be honest with you, if they had a semblance of a defense last year, it would have paid off last year with Cam Ward at quarterback as well.
Yeah, there's his statistics. He's 6'4" and a half. Okay, give him a half. 6'4" and a half and 215. His stats at Duke last year: he threw for 3,973 yards, completion rate of 67%, 34 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. His quarterback rating 153.6.
Yeah, he was really good at Duke. They had some unfortunate stuff. Part of the unfortunate thing at Duke is their defense wasn't fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit odd considering Manny Diaz is their head coach. You would assume that would be a strength of the Duke football program. It was not last year. Mensah really had to carry them to where they got to for most of the season. Obviously, he made a couple crucial mistakes in some of the bigger games. But, again, he's a guy who's got all the arm talent in the world. He can make plays with his legs. He was successful at Tulane. That's the reason he found his way to Duke. And he was successful at Duke. That's the reason he found his way to Miami.
Right. Okay, let's downshift for a second over to golf. It looks like Brooks Koepka is going to be able to play in his first PGA Tour this week at the Farmers Insurance Open. And he talked about being a little nervous coming back off of his time with Liv.
Yeah, I think there's probably reason why he's nervous. I think that even though he's coming back relatively penalty-free, which is a pathway that the PGA Tour set up intentionally, they wanted to try to entice these guys. And when I say these guys, the names on the list would have been Brooks Koepka, John Rahm, Cam Smith, and Bryson DeChambeau. The way they set that up and the way they had the verbiage in that transfer window that they've opened up, it was designed for those guys to come back and play golf on the PGA Tour. Brooks is the only one they've gotten. I think as it is right now, he's probably the only one they're going to get. But it is interesting because I think it's a bit of a storyline. There's going to be people, especially there's a cult out there that just loves the Live Tour, and they have a cultish following of that tour for whatever reason it is. That point to it go, see, the PGA needs these stars back. I think the reason that they're getting the coverage and the recognition that they're getting this week is because of the storyline of itself. Brooks Koepka is the first guy to go to Live and return to the tour. I think there's going to be eyes on the dynamic that it brings.
Brooks, one of the reasons when he sat down with the people at the PGA and talked with them about it was that Brooks was saying that, look, he's had some family issues, and not to get too personal, but Brooks's wife in October announced that she had lost a baby, which is tragic. And the Live Tour is not really a tour where you can wander. I mean, they play all over the world.
Yeah, it's international.
So it's a little, if you want to be like Brooks Koepka and play certain PGA events, then that's a lot easier to do it. Live, you have to play almost every event, and especially from his standpoint. So I believe that they felt, okay, he's a guy who sits down. He's being straight with us. He's got, he's a family guy. We like him. Let's get him back. And so, yeah, I agree with you. The stars aligned, however poorly from the from whatever happened standpoint. Nobody wants tragedy like that to bring somebody back, but it looks like that was the main reason to get him back in the fold.
Yeah, yeah. They had cited the family issues. Said he wanted to be able to spend some more time,
Right.
be a little closer to his family because it is Live Tour is international. They play events in Dubai. They play events in, I believe, Tokyo in Australia. Like these are,
Yep.
this is a worldwide tour. Live is, and so
Right.
when the money is good, obviously,
Right.
for Brooks on Live, but when you can make money comparable with your performance, like Brooks Koepka has had the ability to do, then this move makes a lot more sense in terms of being closer with your family and being more accessible to them.
Well, and also, the way that the live contracts are structured, he was able to uh, go ahead and he's already banked about, well, what is it, about 250, $300 million.
Yeah,
So his contract, his re-up contract was next year. So he basically just opted out of the contract, saying you don't have to pay me the extra 30 or $40 million, given the fact he's already banked $250 million.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, at a
Talking about
certain
playing with
point,
house money, that's definitely playing with house money.
yeah, absolutely. And again, he's like the way that he was able to come back to the PGA Tour. They didn't do it with any like playing penalties. They just basically ensured that
Yeah.
if Brooks Koepka wanted to play in a non-signature event, that he could play in it.
Hmm.
And he's not going to take a field spot. It'll make it into an expanded field,
Right.
technically. Really open up more opportunities for guys to play on the tour,
Hmm.
technically. In that if he plays well enough, then he'll play his way into the signature events, and he'll play his way into the majors as well.
Uh, somewhat. Talk about the silly question category. Scotty Scheffler was being interviewed yesterday, and a reporter asked him, "Does winning ever get old for you?" Scheffler goes, "No, but neither does the time it requires to be good enough to win."
Yeah,
So that was I thought, pretty astute answer to a stupid question.
yeah. I mean, look, Scotty Scheffler has been on the record talking about what golf means to him, what the tournaments mean to him, and he's been very blunt and honest about how this isn't everything for him. But
Right.
that may be where that question was born out of, is some of his past comments regarding kind of being where your feet are and being thankful for what he has off the golf course, and that's who he really is as a person. But
Hmm.
overall, that's an insane question to ask. Obviously, being the best player in the world and winning golf tournament after golf tournament, that doesn't get old. Like, how could it ever?
Yeah, I mean, that I'm sure you could have asked Tiger Woods the same question, and I'm sure he would have given you, if he would have answered you, he would have given you pretty much the same answer. That this just doesn't happen. You just don't, you don't just pick up clubs, walk out there to the first tee, and begin to, to be the best golfer on the planet.
Yeah, no, there's so much. They actually talked about it on the broadcast some this past week while he's playing in the Amex, and they talked about what he was doing in what is technically golf's off season. Now, granted, golf's
Right.
off season is 2-3 months, if that,
Right.
um, really without golf. But what the off season is, and they talked about how he kind of changed the way he goes about things in the off season. He's not trying to change his swing and work on this little stuff. It's just trying to maintain the level that he's at now, because the level that he's at is so much better than the rest of the world.
Hmm. And, well, you can't fault success, right?
Yeah, yeah. He's
Now you
not.
had
He's
said,
not.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say he's not. a lot of people when they reach the top, there's still this drive to get better and get better, and that's great. But at a certain point, you got to understand when you're at the top of something, of maintaining is better than changing and
Yeah.
hopefully improving, especially when it comes to golf. Because with golf, there's so many little aspects that you try to fix or improve upon that can sometimes mess up other aspects of your swing. There's so many little technical things that need to go right in a golf swing in order to give you the results that these pro players get week in, week out.
I was once doing an interview with I was going to say John Schultz, John Smoltz, which I did do, but that wasn't the person I asked the question of, Max Scherzer. And I asked Max, during the off season, do you work on any other pitches? You've got 4 pitches you throw, and you try anything else? He goes, no, I just try to make sure that the 4 pitches I throw, I can still throw.
Yeah, I mean, when you have the careers like that, that's the goal. Like, I think when you get into professional sports, that's where you're aiming to get to eventually in your professional career,
Right.
is to reach a level where you're maintaining, not trying to improve.
Right. And you know what? Maintaining is more difficult sometimes than it is to find that 4th pitch or to get that next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's the sustained success of like when you go back to Nick Saban at Alabama. Obviously, getting to the mountaintop, that was impressive. But the fact that he was able to maintain the success that he found early on
Right.
was what made it so impressive. That's what had people clamoring that Kirby Smart was the best coach in the sport for a while. It's because he made it to a national title, and then the year after that, he made it back to one, and he continued winning. That's what's going to make Curt Cignetti great at Indiana. It's not going to be the fact that he won the national title. It's going to be, well, it is the fact that he won the national title, but it's going to be, if he continues to be regarded as such, the fact that he was able to maintain that level that he reached last year in Indiana. That's what's so difficult in sports. And that's what, while it ends up getting hate, sustained success is the hardest thing to replicate in sports.
Yeah, and to your point, Kirby is still, considered probably in the top 4 coaches in college football.
Yeah.
I mean, because, like it or not, he just shows up in playoff time with a team. Whether they can win it or not is, that's debatable. But you can't fault the fact that every year Kirby's there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what makes it impressive is, are you able to return to, because like that's still, being in the top 12 annually is still an incredibly high mark to have to reach year in and year out. It doesn't matter, how good or how bad the program is. Like, when you're able to reach it year after year, that's what makes it impressive. That's what made Tiger Woods impressive. Like, they can quote you, and will continue to quote, for as long as Scottie Scheffler is world number 1, the amount of weeks that he's been sitting at world number 1 versus the amount of weeks that Tiger Woods was sitting at world number 1. Scottie Scheffler's been as good as he's been, yet he still can't touch Tiger's numbers.
Yep. I've had a lot of people ask me, who I believe to be the best coach, that I've personally ever seen. And when I give them the answer, Jimmy Johnson, they look at me like I'm crazy. And I say that because Johnson could have had numbers like Saban if he wanted to stay in college. He could have won numerous championships. But he goes to Dallas. He wins 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, that's impressive. That means, you can win. If you can win at the college level and then translate that to the pros, that's impressive to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also have to, there's him, and then in terms of guys that have had it translate to the NFL, it's pretty much Jimmy Johnson and Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
In terms of success in the NFL. Obviously, I would say Jimmy was slightly more successful than Pete in the NFL. Maybe even slightly more successful in college than Pete was in college as well. But both those guys were able to do it at both levels, at the highest form, multiple times.
When you're talking about Pete, I'll give Pete credit on this too. Pete went from the pros to college and then
Yeah,
back. Jimmy went obviously to college and then to the pros. But so Pete actually stepped back to college, and of course, at that point in time, he put together a hell of a team at USC.
yeah.
And that was amazing. So, yeah, Pete was amazing. By the time Jimmy got to the Miami Dolphins, there wasn't much left in the tank over there.
Yeah. Well, and what makes it so impressive is it proves how like they can adapt to where they are, and they are
Mm-hmm.
true winners. Like there's a lot of guys that go on, they don't have success in the NFL. Well, why didn't the college guy have success in the NFL? Because what the college guy had built culture-wise didn't translate to a place where the guys are getting paid the same as you, and
Right.
they're treated much more as employees. The culture didn't work the same. So I think now you're entering a phase where there's going to need to be like a dividing line, because NIL is turning these guys more into employees. And so now, if you take a really high-end college head coach and transplant him into the NFL, I think his chances of success are a lot higher because the environments around them are much more similar now.
I think that part of Jimmy's success was that when he recruited kids to Miami, they knew he had their back. Whatever went on, what they were to Jimmy, if they were a family. Whatever needed to be done was done. He held up. There were times when the athletic director was on his ass. The times the president was on his ass. He protected that team, and they knew it. They knew there was nothing that Jimmy wouldn't do for them. He goes to the Dallas Cowboys, and let's be honest, Michael Irvin was there. I mean, there was a number of his players, and a number
Yeah,
of players who played against him in college. They knew it. They knew what kind of guy he was. He was not, regardless of what Jerry Jones was talking about, they knew that Jimmy didn't give a damn. Jimmy was going to coach that team and make it better.
yeah, absolutely. And it's success that I'm just not sure is, like it can't be measured up against what is to come. I believe in football.
Yeah, I mean, they're different. They're different eras. I mean, it's hard to think of the success of what Bowden had at Florida State for as many years as he had. Same with Joe, Paterno at Penn State. I mean,
Yeah,
those kind of guys like Bear Bryant. Those that was a different era. Uh,
yeah,
we've got a transfer portal here now, where at the end of the season you don't know who the hell's on the team.
yeah, yeah. You have to not only do you have to recruit high school and recruit the transfer portal, but you have to recruit your own roster now, which
Right.
is a you know an operation that spreads you extremely thin in terms of
Mhm.
how you're able to recruit.
Yeah, it makes it difficult, and the last thing some of these people need is difficult. How about let's go back? We were talking golf before, and I missed an opportunity. You and I were talking a little earlier before we got on about ESPN and the deal they've got going on. So I know you wanted to talk about that. So let's shift back to golf for just a minute to bring up something that you're talking about with ESPN and PGA.
Yeah, this has been the crux of that cult of live followers, talking about how impactful the live tour is, and how impactful the guys they have on it are. And I'm not dismissing their point completely, but ESPN has picked up the coverage of the first 2 days of the Travelers Championship, and they will be airing it on their main channel. It's been over a decade since ESPN has carried golf coverage on their main channels, in terms of a tournament's main broadcast. It's been over a decade since that's happened, which it's groundbreaking. But the reason they're doing it is they're following Brooks Koepka, and not only Brooks Koepka, but there's a lot of big names in this field of what is a non-signature event in the Farmers Insurance Open out there on Torrey Pines.
Yeah, it's you know, that's a that's a that's a public golf course,
Yeah,
and it's a golf course which is a lot of fun to watch because it's the conditions. It's North San Diego basically, and the conditions are usually this time of year very good, except for the wind, and that usually is the thing that the factor that is difficult. But that, those guys have played that course so many times. I think that um, I don't think they were concerned about that. I think they know what they've got getting themselves into.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think it's big for the sport of golf because in a world where the PGA Tour themselves, for as much as they try, they
Hmm.
still struggle to market their tour to a very effective measure. But something like this from ESPN is coverage, quite frankly, that they need. Like this is something in terms of their broadcast and their scheduling that's very big because ESPN is a channel that appeals more to that younger audience that they're trying to reach. They, CBS is, has been a great partner for golf, and so has NBC and Paramount and all these other networks that they're partnered with, and they do a good job in their coverage. I'm not knocking their golf coverage at all. I think they do a fantastic job of covering the sport. But the matter of fact is that ESPN just reaches a different demographic, and I think having it on Thursday and Friday is something that could do good for the PGA Tour in terms of the getting new viewers, like getting new eyeballs on the sport of golf.
It's interesting. Paramount Plus has you know, carries the regular CBS feed, right?
Yeah,
And if you look at the stream, streaming on Paramount Plus, the numbers are good, but the numbers are much lower from a standpoint of age. So you get a younger crowd that's watching it on Paramount Plus or on Peacock when NBC has it on the weekends. So to prove your point, yes, the streaming world, you're seeing that golf has a following. It's just not on CBS and NBC to the extent that I'm sure that they would love it to be.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, and how do they do it? Because they keep trying to find ways. And from honestly, what I'm listening to some people say is I think there's sometimes just a reluctance from some of the old elder statesmen in the room when it comes to the PGA Tour in the way they view their sport. Like they still view their sport in a very old-fashioned way. And I'm not saying that it's a bad way. I'm not saying that it's the wrong way to view their sport. But the way they view their sport right now and the way they approach their marketing scheme is it's still designed for that older, more, we want to wear pants for every round of our golf and it needs to be quiet versus honestly what's grown the sport, whether you like it or not, can be up for debate. But the matter of the fact is that the growing demographic in the sport is the people that want to wear the big block letters and the upside down letters on their hats. And they want to wear shorts and they want to drink and they want to listen to music on the golf course. And, you can sit there and frown at all those things, but the matter of the fact is that's the direction and that's the demographic of people that's going to grow the sport of golf, whether the older statesmen of the PGA Tour like it or not.
Well, I mean, you gotta sit down sometimes and decide where the demographics are. Doesn't mean you have to throw out tradition. It just means you have to understand how to move with the times.
Yep.
The NBA did it, and it was successful for them. Baseball's trying, and it's working pretty well for them. The NFL are finding out that Thursday Night Football on Prime, they're actually getting a younger demographic, and they're also getting longer watch times. So
Yeah.
they're actually getting earlier engagement, which means the pregame show. People are actually watching it, and people are actually watching the postgame show. So they're proving that one of the things that streaming is proving is that a younger audience is willing to watch. Where when CBS and NBC are doing it. They have the network to take care of, which means that you're going to have issues with regard to timing. You got to get out if you're on Sunday, you have to get out of there because you've got 60 minutes coming up.
Yeah, yeah, and there's
Saturday, it's the local news. So you're on a clock that doesn't allow you to do much much creativity when it comes to the sport.
yeah, and I mean, there's also something where when you have it on Amazon Prime, like it's more beneficial. I know not everybody is the financial entity that Amazon is, but like when you think about Amazon Prime and the way they do it and what the luxury they get from their streaming service carrying the game is they market their own products, they market their own website, they market their own services, and that's just not something that like is capable of doing on these major networks. Like CBS, yeah, they market their own stuff, but they're not able to just market their own stuff. They need that outside advertising money that Amazon doesn't. And the fact that Amazon's able to, they market their own stuff. They have autonomy in production. Like they are the judge, jury, and defendant in this entire case for what they produce. And it just is able to give you a higher quality product that reaches a different demographic based on the platform that's provided on that these networks can't provide.
Yeah, I mean they are willing to write a check for the coverage of Thursday night football at the extent that you would write the same check to cover an NFL playoff game. So their production is flawless in the fact that they spend way more money on producing a single game than does most of the networks. The other thing that's important to note on that is that it's less than 4% of their total programming budget. So there's so much more money that they have because, as you said before, this is not their core business. Their core business is selling, everything from, AWS, services to selling you and me a pair of socks or any other number of things you can get on Amazon.
Yeah, exactly. And it just allows them to create a better product. But with the coverage that ESPN's giving the golf tournament this weekend is, maybe golf opens themselves up to looking more into the streaming services. I know they're on it already, but they're on ESPN Plus. Like the ESPN Plus doesn't do a good job of showcasing the coverage.
Right.
Part of golf's problem as well is the fact that it's on multiple different channels. Like I don't want to have to start watching it on my streaming service and have to finish on the main broadcast feed on CBS. Like that's not an enjoyable way to have to watch the tournaments. And that's honestly their next big issue, I think.
Well, I think too that NBC spun off a bunch of their networks. So the Golf Channel's up for sale.
Yeah.
And there's conversations going on that I know of that they're talking about, the battle. There's going to be a battle between Apple and Amazon to get that Golf Channel because they feel they can do a hell of a lot with the Golf Channel.
Yeah.
And I believe if they do, that will be a huge, huge thing. Because remember, the Golf Channel on either of those platforms becomes a worldwide entity.
Yep. Yeah.
And that really gives them the strength. And what it does is it gives them the strength to go up against CBS and NBC when the bidding comes for the next rights fees for golf. And that's possibly one of the things that I can't understand with PGA is the way that they work with CBS and NBC is not, you take half the season, I'll take half the season. It's like CBS will have 2 or 3 tournaments and NBC will have 2 or 3 tournaments, and I have to figure out not that it's a difficult thing, but I have to look and find out, okay, are they on CBS this week? Are they on NBC? Where are they this week?
Yeah. There's no continuity in golf coverage. Like, yeah, the final round's going to be on one of two places, but you don't know which of the two it is. And yeah, you can probably watch the whole thing if you want to, but you also have to watch the whole thing on a couple of different places as well, because there's not one continuous main broadcast that they do it on.
Right.
But in terms of the PGA Tour's long-term success, if they sign something with Apple or with Amazon in terms of the Golf Channel and that coverage, that's probably going to be the biggest thing to happen to the PGA Tour since Tiger Woods was Tiger. Like, that's
Right.
it. In fact, it'll do more than that if they were to make that happen. And honestly, I think it's something that the PGA Tour is going to need, because there's been mention made about how Live Golf's backup plan, if this merger falls through, which as time passes, it seems to be more and more that Live Golf and the PGA Tour are not on a course to find some form of resolution to the conflict they have going on. It's money that they're going to need, and it's exposure that they're going to need. Because supposedly the Live Tour's plan, when that fails, is to double down and just pour more money into Live Golf. And while we can say that, certain people, they have their morals, and we'd like to hope that they choose the PGA Tour, and there's also something true that every man has a price.
Sure.
And if Live doubles down and pours more money into it and goes all in on pushing this brand of golf that they're doing, and they're going around and they're changing their format, they're changing the 72 holes. So eventually the hope is that they can get world golf ranking points as well and be recognized as an official tour. That's stuff that provides a legitimate threat to the PGA Tours.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about it. And I think that right now, we're going to have to see how they play it out. And it's going to be a very interesting way to see what goes on from that standpoint.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the PGA is very, very tied to CBS, because CBS was the ones who basically begun the broadcasting on the tour. They were the first to really give it, a series of more than one or two golf tournaments a year, and that's been all the way going back to the 1950s. But that being said, you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen with an NBC, from that standpoint. But I think one of the things that has been surprising, and maybe it shouldn't have been, and that is the fact that the subscribership to Sirius XM Golf has gotten much stronger.
That's interesting. Because, well, actually, to be honest with you, I don't think it's that interesting, because I think that's more of a result of people that are, getting new cars now, and, in their Sirius XM, they like to listen to golf. Like, listening to golf, I think, is more of an older thing to do in terms of your age demographics. That's going to be an older age demographic. So again, while it may be a plus that your numbers are up, it's nice that your numbers are up, but you know that you're not reaching a new demographic by any measure. This seems more trickle down from the introduction of technology everywhere and more wide access to Sirius XM radio than anything.
Well, I will say this. I've talked to the PR people there, and they've given me the demographics, and the demographics are really good for the younger audience. And here's the reason that they say you can take and put your earbuds in, listen to it as you're playing golf.
Yeah.
Because it's on your phone. They've got the app, so they're seeing that their numbers are trending younger. It's not trending younger in the car, right? I mean, the car's the car.
Yeah.
But whenever you're talking about the app is much younger, demographic, and much of it is guys who want to play golf but still want to know what's going on in the golf, on the tournament.
Yeah, no, and look, the Sirius XM stuff. To be honest with you, I hadn't even considered the app. That was not the way I was thinking about it. So that does help in terms of that younger demographic. And yeah, that when you give the context of those numbers, it does make me a little more hopeful. But on the base, I was just considering it as a more elder thing to do.
No, and there's no question that it has been.
Yeah.
There's no denying that fact. But I think what they've found is, as Andrew Fitzpatrick, who was their PR guy, and I have had the conversation, he says, look, when do young guys get to go out and play golf? It's on the weekends.
Yeah.
So do you want to sit at home and watch a golf tournament, or would you rather listen to it as you're playing golf and then go into the clubhouse after you finish your 18 holes, sit down and have a beverage and watch the end of the tournament?
Yeah, and that just made me think of something that, it's not something that they can control or anything like that, but golf in and of itself is its own biggest competitor. Like, when golf tournaments are played or when people are most likely to be out playing golf.
Right.
So the activity of actually playing the sport competes with the sport itself that's being played on TV.
Well, if you go to, any golf course on a Saturday and Sunday, what's on top in the bar?
Yeah.
It's the golf tournament.
Yep.
So as I said, you may want to get an early tee time, but you can't always do that. So you get what you get, and you come in at lunch or you come in later, the 19th hole, and sit down and have a sandwich and have a beverage and watch the end of the tournament.
Yeah, and that's where, that's because, again, the younger demographic, they're less likely to get that 8 a.m. tee time. They're more likely to want that 2:30 or 3:30 tee time where they go out with their friends and they can have a couple on the course and maybe they come back and want to have a couple more after. But that's typically the way the younger generation treats or handles the game of golf. And there's not necessarily anything inherently wrong with that. But again, that is going to impede your numbers when you're trying to market this product to a younger generation that would prefer to play it than watch it.
I know a lot of, some of the new hires that they've had for PGA Radio are a much younger demographic as well.
Yeah, and that's what, I can tell you, as much as I love watching golf, I like listening to it, I enjoy seeing the different shots and all this other stuff. But if I can watch it or I can play it, I'm probably going to much rather play it, no matter how bad I am.
Right. It had the same problem tennis did.
Yeah.
Because when the weather's nice, what do you want to do? You want to be out playing tennis.
Yeah, and there's a couple sports that it falls under. Like, I'm not sure anybody's dying to sit down and watch the pickleball tournament, but it's one of the most popular sports amongst young Americans, I would say, in terms of its growing popularity. But I don't think there's any, there's not anything that's going to suggest that we're going to be getting, paddleball tours on ESPN, the Ocho, anytime soon.
Well, I'll tell you what, Carl Foster, who is the commissioner of the U.S. Pickleball League, which has owners like LeBron James and oh my goodness, Tiger Woods, Tom Brady. They all have franchises in the pickleball tournament division. We'll have to get Carl on to talk about pickleball and tell us where the demographics are.
Yeah, because I think that it would probably have a similar problem as golf, where people would rather play it than watch it.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, you got a situation with pickleball where, when LeBron James bought that house in Los Angeles, had a beautiful had a beautiful tennis court, and he went in and had had people come in and repaint the court for pickleball. He's got two
Yeah,
pickleball courts now, where he had one tennis court.
yeah, yeah. It's growing in popularity, but that popularity seems to be exclusively in person.
Yeah, I mean it's a participatory sport, no question.
Yeah,
Well, I'm
yeah,
gonna tell you what. We're gonna let you get out of here, so we let you drive.
yeah.
How are the roads and the weather down there?
The weather's fine. There's still a little accumulation on the side of the roads from
Hmm.
this past weekend's storms, but nothing that the southern sun won't take care of in the next 24 to 48 hours.
There you go. We're not going to see 30 until maybe the weekend.
Oh yeah, we're gonna see 40s as soon as tomorrow.
The other thing is, we had a situation today where a block of ice came off the roof of our building, which happens, in high rises, and
Yeah,
it landed on the patio of one of our residents and smashed basically all the furniture to bits. Um, had that thing fallen on a person, God knows what that would
yeah, yeah. A lot of the unseen or not thought of consequences of having like
do.
such a heavy ice storm. I think that was the biggest misconception.
Hmm.
Um, at least in the South, was like people thought, well, it's coming cold. Maybe it'll only rain. The snow's not coming. This was ice. Like what I got was solid ice. It looked like snow accumulation, but it was pure sleet accumulation, and it was solid ice. And so it was heavy, and it was hard, and it was slick.
I would rather have 2 inches or I'd rather have 6 inches of snow than the 2 inches of ice.
I'd rather have I'd rather have 6 inches of snow than probably half an inch of ice. Like
Yeah, that's true.
it causes problems. Like the exploding trees. That was a term that I learned thanks to this winter storm. I didn't know what that was, but apparently the sap inside of trees can freeze and cause the trees to expand and ultimately explode under the pressure of themselves.
Well, with that weather report, I will let you get on and drive safely, and we'll be back here tomorrow, same time, everybody. Take care.